Good evening, it's 8 o'clock. The top headlines tonight: Assam's devastating floods, an exclusive report from the worst flooded areas. 7 lakh people are now homeless in 29 districts. Extremely heavy rain also predicted in Karnataka, Kerala, Assam and Meghalaya. One year in jail for Sidhu after his conviction in a road rage case in 1988 where a man died. Meanwhile, in a Punjabi punch, ex-Punjab Congress chief Sunil Jaakar quits and shifts to the BJP. Another ex-Congress leader, working president that time, Hardik Patel in Gujarat, says, "I'm not going to the BJP yet." LPG cylinders now cost over 1,000 rupees in cities across India. It's the 7th cooking gas price hike since June last year. After a few sessions up, markets tanked today and the rupee hits a new low. The rupee closes at a fresh low of 77 rupees 70 paise to the dollar. That's the 5th record low in just 10 days. Meanwhile, a plea in a Mathura court. A petitioner wants a suit to remove a mosque entirely, saying it was built on Krishna Janmabhumi. The Mathura court allows the suit to be heard. And a new disease after the United Kingdom. Now the United States confirms the first case of monkeypox. Our special report. Our lead story tonight: Assam is currently battling devastation in at least 29 districts. Heavy rains and flooding have meant that 7 lakh people are homeless. 1,500 villages are flooded. There was a brief respite in the extremely heavy rain today, so rescue efforts have doubled, but it's still extremely hard to get to lakhs of people who are completely cut off. Ratnadeep and Sanjoy, the NDTV team, is there with rescue officials. They're pitching in as well. Here's their special report.
A risky boat ride through the floodwaters and a walk for a few miles through flooded paddy fields brings us to the fringes of Hathigarh in Assam's Nagaon district. This is one of Assam's worst hit areas, completely submerged by an overflowing Kapili river and water released from the Barapani dam in neighbouring Meghalaya. In just 2 days, hundreds of families have been marooned as the excess water drowned village after village. 41-year-old Leelabati Das can't hold back her tears. Her mud hut has already given way to floodwaters, currently waist high and rising higher every hour. She and her family of 7 are stranded. Their 10 bighas of farmland ruined. The yield from these lands would have fed them for a year and fetched the family an income of at least 1 lakh rupees additionally. Now there is nothing left.
ঋণ আছে 50-60,000 টাকা ঋণ হয়ে গেছে বেমার একটা এখানে কেতিয়া পালা করে উড়ে বেরতেছে পান পানি সব খাইয়া দিছে অন বাচ্চা প্লান লয়ে কি কাম আমরা সরকার থেকে অনত কেউ আইছে না অনেক শিবিরে এখন কেমনে যামো নিজেরা নৌকা নাই
Leelabati's 80-year-old father-in-law has seen many floods, but this one, he says, is unprecedented.
আগে বান পানি তো এবার আইছে না কেউ বাইরে বাইরে আইছে না
এবার বানপানিতে
এবারে বান পানিটা তো মারাত্মক হয়ে গেছে
Amid rising floodwaters, the real challenge for the government is to reach out to the people who are marooned. And for hundreds of families like this one, every flood brings a new challenge for them. The challenge of survival, because their cropland is all washed away. The little grains that they have is fast finishing, and many of them even don't have boats to go to the relief camps. So for them, the only option is to wait for the government help to come in. Although Nagaon and adjoining Hojai districts have been the focus of rescue operations involving army, the NDRF and state forces, it's not enough. In many areas, locals are trying to rescue marooned people without any outside help.
আমাৰ বৃহৎ দুইটা সার্কুলার মিলি পেলাই হৈছে পঞ্চায়ত পায় 5-6টা পঞ্চায়তৰ এলেকাত বানপানীটো গতে যিখন দিছে সেইখিনি উদ্ধাৰ কৰি আছে কিন্তু আমাৰ এইখিনি এলেকাত এতিয়ালৈকে আহি পোৱা নাই তেওঁলোকে উদ্ধাৰ অভিযান চলাই আছে।
In Dima Hasao, a bit of relief with the internet back and an Air Force sortie is bringing essential supplies for the second day and airlifting stranded villagers. The main link road to the district is now partially open to traffic, though it's a long way off from normal. With camera person Sanjay Chakravarti in Nagaon, Ratndeep Chaudhary for NDTV.
Floods in Assam happen every year, but the people saying that this year is unprecedented. Is this also the climate change impact that we're seeing? As we can see, the devastation there is a huge challenge for the state government and the centre to get relief to these stranded people. Well, the other big headline tonight, three major blows in a sense for the Congress. There's a sulking ex-Congress chief, Navjot Singh Sidhu, who's got a sentence of 1 year in jail. So he's going to be in jail. This has just this morning, he rode an elephant in Patiala against price rise. Also, ex-Congress chief Sunil Jaakar has joined the BJP today, just a few days after he quit the Congress, saying goodbye and good luck. And Hardik Patel, the ex-Gujarat Working Congress president, has also quit, but he says he's not sure yet whether he'll go to the BJP.
A big come down for the former Punjab Congress president Navjot Sidhu. The Supreme Court today sentenced him to a year's rigorous imprisonment in a 1988 road rage case. The order came soon after the former Congress state president was seen protesting against price rise in Patiala.
No comment. No comment.
December 1988, Sidhu got into an argument with 65-year-old Gurnam Singh, a resident of Patiala, over a parking spot. Sidhu dragged Gurnam Singh out of his car and hit him. He later died. Sidhu was charged with punishment for voluntarily causing hurt under IPC Section 323. But the Patiala District and Sessions Court acquitted him for want of evidence in 1999. High Court held Sidhu guilty of causing death due to negligence. High Court sentenced Sidhu to 3 years in jail in December 2006. Sidhu spent 2 nights in jail in January 2007 and then got bail from Supreme Court. Supreme Court set aside the High Court order in May 2018. In 2018, Top Court fined Sidhu 1,000 rupees for voluntarily causing hurt. Victim's family filed a review plea in Supreme Court in September 2018. Today, Top Court sentenced Sidhu to 1 year rigorous imprisonment. Reading out the operative part of the verdict, Justice Kaul said that the court is not inclined to convert Sidhu's conviction to a graver charge, but it accepts the plea that the Congress leader's punishment should be enhanced.
As per the practice and procedure in Supreme Court, once your petition review has been allowed, you have to surrender and comply with the order. As of now, he has to go to jail. He has to surrender and go to jail.
It is rare, extremely rare, that in a criminal matter, by review, sentences are reimposed or a sentence is reimposed. Remedies open to Mr. Sidhu will naturally be exercised in accordance with law, whether it is curative petitions or other petitions.
The victim's family says justice has been done.
Nothing, thanks.
As Sidhu will now be taken into custody, his opponents within the party say it's a good riddance.
हाँ देखिए, कांग्रेस का जो नुकसान नवजोत सिंह सिद्धू कर गया है वो कभी भरपाई कभी नहीं होगी.
For the victim's family, the justice has been served after 3 decades. But for Sidhu, who was active in politics despite having lost the polls, this has come as a big setback. With Mohammad Ghazali, Usama Shah for NDTV.
From 1,000 rupees for a man's death to 1 year jail. Meanwhile, in other news, the other ex-Punjab Congress chief making headlines today is Sunil Jaakar, who joined the BJP in the presence of BJP President JP Nadda. For the BJP, it is an advantage since Sunil Jaakar has a strong, clean image in Punjab and could also help in the Haryana elections. He is, of course, a strong Jat leader as well. For the Congress, another blow, though Sunil Jaakar had quit on Saturday, but his critique of the Congress remained as scathing as ever.
Of the 2 people who recently resigned from the Congress, Gujarat Working President Hardik Patel and former Congress Punjab Chief Sunil Jaakar. Mr. Jaakar has now executed his big switch from Congress to the BJP. At this press conference in New Delhi with BJP President JP Nadda by his side, BJP is sending out a strong and powerful message. Nadda even acknowledging that an important role will be given to Mr. Jaakar.
पार्टी मजबूत होगी पंजाब को मजबूत करने के लिए, पंजाब को मजबूती प्रदान करने के लिए, और उसमें सुनील जाखड़ जी का विशेष योगदान रहने वाला है.
The former Punjab Congress chief could not help but talk about his association with the Congress, saying the decision to end the association was not easy. But it was more about integrity and respect that forced him to make this move.
50 साल का संबंध मेरा कांग्रेस से है. अगर सुनील जाखड़ ने आज एक परिवार से 50 साल का रिश्ता तोड़ने की नौबत आई तो कोई आधारभूत बातें थीं. किसी कोई व्यक्तिगत झगड़ा नहीं था. हम इंसान हैं, हमने रिश्तों को निभाया है असूलों की तरह. पर जब असूल ही टूट जाएं, जब हम अपने सिद्धांत से हट जाएं, अपनी आइडियोलॉजी से हट जाएं, तो मैं समझता हूं दिस इज अ राइट टाइम टू हैव अ रीथिंक.
Jaakar is a big catch for the BJP. He enjoys a clean image and is respected across parties. He is largely non-confrontational and has a straightforward image. He is a homegrown leader who enjoys respect among Sikh and non-Sikh communities. His stint as Punjab Congress chief could help BJP set up base in Punjab. He could help BJP by getting other disgruntled congressmen together. He could also help BJP overcome the AAP challenge ahead of 2024. A Jaat leader, he will help BJP in Haryana too. He is likely to help BJP in Himachal polls as well.
Mr. Jaakar has exhibited signs of disgruntlement for a while. His tweets and utterances have landed him in trouble, where he took divergent view from the party over issues like appointing Navjot Singh Sidhu as party president in Punjab or projecting Mr. Channi as the CM face. He even questioned the Prime Minister's security lapse in Firozpur.
The Aam Aadmi Party has greeted this move as political caution. All the eyes are now on the other big exit from the Congress, amid murmur that Hardik Patel too could switch to the BJP ahead of the Gujarat Assembly elections later this year. In Punjab with Mohammad Ghazali, Usama Shah for NDTV.
Well, the other big headline, LPG cylinders now cost over 1,000 rupees in cities and villages across India. The impact of that, many people are just not using LPG anymore.
Already struggling with food inflation, more bad news for the common man. A 14.2 kilogram non-subsidized LPG cylinder will now cost over 1,000 rupees across the country. This is the 7th hike since June 2021.
The price of a 14.2 kg non-subsidized LPG cylinder has been raised 7 times in last 1 year. In Delhi, the price of a domestic LPG cylinder has risen from 809 rupees per cylinder to 1,003 rupees a cylinder, a rise of 194 rupees in last 11 months.
The rise in LPG prices has hit the poor and the lowest middle class families the most. Just 60 kilometers from Delhi, Tongawala Yamin lives with his family in a village in UP's Hapur district. He makes a living by running a tonga. His wife says that the family got a subsidized gas connection under the PM Ujjwala Yojana. But this poor family is unable to fill the cylinder and is forced to cook on a chula because of the rising cost of a domestic LPG cylinder.
महंगाई इतनी है, भरवा में कैसे महंगाई की वजह से नहीं भरवा पाते. अच्छा. और काम ऐसे है नहीं, जो कारोबार ऐसे हो तो भरवाले में भी 2-3 महीने हो गए पैसों की, उसकी वजह से ना भरवा रहे, काम हिले नहीं, कुछ नहीं ऐसे.
पर सिलेंडर भर नहीं पा रहे क्योंकि महंगाई बहुत हो रही है. 1000 रुपये के पार हो रहा सिलेंडर. इस वजह से काम धंधा इतना है नहीं, सिलेंडर भर नहीं पा रहे.
In Kolkata, a housewife says these prices are untenable.
गैस का दाम अभी 1000 रुपया से ऊपर हो गया. हम कैसे मैनेज करूं? मेरे घर पे एक आदमी कमाते हैं, उसका सैलरी भी फिक्स्ड है, उसका सैलरी रोज-रोज नहीं बढ़ता है, लेकिन सामान रोज-रोज बढ़ रहा है.
As income declines and inflation rises, the poor beneficiaries of PM Ujjwala Yojana are now struggling to refill their LPG cylinders. Recently, an RTI query revealed that the average consumption of beneficiaries of a 14.2 kilogram cylinder per annum has declined from 4.61 cylinders in FY 2021 to 3.9 cylinders in FY 2021-22. It also says that the number of customers who refilled only once rises from 10,26,107 to 52,41,254 in FY 2021-22. Clearly, the challenge on inflation front is growing and the government will have to urgently intervene to give relief to common people. With Adnan in Hapur, J.D. Shankar in Kolkata and Himanshu Shekhar in Delhi, Bureau Report, NDTV.
The reality of inflation today. And meanwhile, in other news, markets and the rupee and the Nasdaq in the United States all hit extremely badly. The Nasdaq fall being reflected today in Indian markets as well. And the rupee, meanwhile, hitting a new low. Priyanshi has the latest. Priyanshi.
Well, it was the case of all falling down today. Markets tanked sharply while the rupee hit a new low again. Rupee closed at a fresh low of 77.7 rupees per dollar, and with this, rupee has hit its fifth record low in just the last 10 days. Now, what's the reason? The war in Ukraine translating into stagflation and recession fears across countries. In such times, investors take their funds to safer instruments such as the dollar and gold. They pull out money from countries such as India, and as the basic rule of economics tells us, an increase in the demand for the dollar will drive its rate up, while a fall in demand for the rupee drives its rate down. Now, what's the impact? It means that all imports now get even more expensive. Crude oil is already up by over 12% compared to the period before the war 3 months ago. The rupee going down could translate into even more expensive fuel for us in India, while this will trickle down to a price rise across essentials such as food. Foreign travel and education gets more expensive for you and me as our money loses its value against the dollar. And the red trend, in fact, extended to the markets as well. Sensex closed at its lowest level since August 2021. Markets lost over 2.5%, and with this, markets have faced their steepest one-day fall in the last 2 months. Sensex lost 1,416 points to end at 52,792, while Nifty lost 430 points to settle at 15,809. Now, the reason behind the slump? Indian markets follow their global peers. Markets across countries are falling on fears of stagflation and even a recession. The concerns worsened after the Fed said they will continue to hike interest rates to bring down inflation to 2% even at the cost of an economic slump. Experts say all of these risks stem from the supply disruptions from Russia's war in Ukraine, and an end to the war is the only way to bring some economic relief.
Thanks, Priyanshi. So as the economy, the real headline, the focus, however, in our courts still remains on cases which goes into issues of centuries ago, really digging up the past. So today, a Mathura court has agreed that a plea can be heard, asking that a mosque be actually brought down on what the petitioner calls Krishna Janmabhumi in Mathura.
Remove this mosque entirely. It was built on the birthplace of Krishna. That is the latest plea in a series of Mandir Masjid disputes. A district court in Mathura today allowed a lawsuit demanding the removal of the Shahi Idgah mosque in Mathura. The suit was filed in September 2020 on behalf of the child deity Lord Shri Krishna Virajman. The 5 petitioners in the case are not residents of Mathura but claim to be worshippers of Lord Krishna. They are Ranjana Agnihotri, Pravesh Kumar, Rajesh Mani Tripathi, Karunesh Kumar Shukla, Shivaji Singh and Tripurari Tiwari. They claim the mosque was built on the orders of the Mughal ruler Aurangzeb. The petitioners want ownership of the entire 13.37 acres of land and cancellation of a compromise between the temple complex and the mosque management in 1968. The suit was dismissed in September 2020 by a civil court, but the petitioners appealed against the order today.
There is a series of evidence on the court. Sale deed, originally property owned by the ownership, जो auction में property purchase की, series of document हमने evidence दाखिल की है. Land revenue. Currently, land revenue has been paid by the Thakurji only.
The temple's management committee says it wants to build a temple on the land where the mosque stands today.
अयोध्या में जो गंगा प्रवाहित हुई थी, गंगा शुरू हुई विकास की, भक्ति की, सनातन धर्म की, वो वाराणसी पहुंच चुकी है और वाराणसी है विकास की गंगा मथुरा तक आ गई है. राम कृष्ण और शिव को यदि हम अलग कर दें तो सनातन धर्म आत्मा विहीन है।
The Muslim side, however, denies that the mosque is built on Krishna Janmabhumi.
13.37 एकड़ से बिल्कुल बाहर शाही मस्जिद है, टुवर्ड्स ईस्ट है। इवन जो डॉक्यूमेंट है जो उन्होंने फाइल किया, जैसे जुगल किशोर बंडला जी ने ट्रस्ट बनाया, प्रॉपर्टी को परचेज किया, उसके टुवर्ड्स ईस्ट में जो बाउंड्रीज दे रखी हैं उस तरफ वक्त प्रॉपर्टी दिखा रखी है। तो हमारा तो कंटेंशन ये था कि साहब ये 13.37 एकड़ का भाग ही नहीं है। अब चूंकि भाग ही नहीं है तो इस संबंध में इन लोगों को कोई भी राइट नहीं है कि इस प्रॉपर्टी के संबंध में कोई भी केस ये फाइल कर सके।
The issue was a major poll plank during the Uttar Pradesh elections earlier this year. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath had said that after the temples in Ayodhya and Kashi, it was now Mathura's turn.
Today's verdict has raised the question, will this Krishna Janmabhumi in Mathura become the next Ayodhya? Another place of worship is now under the court's scanner, but it will take months of hearing before the answer is anywhere in sight. In Mathura, with camera person Pawan Kumar and Saurabh Gautam, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
Well, from Mathura to Kashi and the Gyanvapi mosque controversy, today the report, a survey report by commissioners appointed by the court, was filed in a Varanasi court in a sealed cover. But that sealed cover turned out to be virtually ineffectual because within a few hours, all the details were available in the media of the key points. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court, which is hearing the case today, has adjourned it till Friday and said the Varanasi court should also next hear this only on Friday. This, as the details of the survey report are now out everywhere in the media. Here are the big details of what the survey report says, which has been given to a Varanasi court. Lines of that is in the survey report that the petitioners say that the pillars in the mosque basement have engravings of flowers and kalash, that the carvings in ancient Hindi language were found on a pillar in the basement. There is a symbol of the Trishul on a wall of the basement. Two large pillars and an arch are protruding from the western wall of the mosque. Petitioners have called them a remnants of temples. The mosque committee has opposed this, and this is what the survey report is saying, which the court now has to consider in Varanasi. Well, some news coming in right now. The Telecom Minister Ashwini Vaishnav has just tested India's first 5G call at the IIT Madras. As he said, after doing that 5G call, the entire end-to-end network is designed in India. So there it is, India's first 5G call being carried out by the Telecom Minister there.